Melissa Zad here for Into Boxing, and I am delighted to be joined by none other than Savage Dan. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. A little bit like lost for plans at the moment because should have been at a weigh-in today, should have been going to a boxing event tomorrow, but unfortunately that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously the Eubank Junior Conor Benn fight has been cancelled. The whole show's been cancelled due to the drug tests, the VADA testing that came back positive for Conor. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, it's a failed drug test. Yeah. So like we can beat around the bush as much as we want to, but it's a failed drug test. Now, I'm sure Connor's probably got his reasons. I don't think he's come out and said anything. I've seen Nigel's come out.
No, no, he has, hasn't he? I think he came out and said that um
I've seen a statement, but I
yeah,
haven't
the
seen
statement.
anything. I haven't seen, yeah, but a statement, you give those. Like whether you're in a police station, wherever it is, you give statements. But as in like I need to see something with his face. Um, yeah, look, bottom line, whether you like it or not, it's in his system. And it's a prohibited substance that's in his system. And it's one of those things where like if you're not anything to do with the sport, you probably won't get it, what it could be.
Hmm.
But if you're in the know, then you know what it could be. And that's why, in my opinion, as much as I would have loved to see this fight happen, they've made the right decision by calling it off. The O2, by the way, must be absolutely furious because they were supposed to have Shields Marshall, and then they were supposed to have Ben Eubank, and they've had neither so far. So we have to hope that we can get our one on next week.
For sure. Um, there's a lot to unpack. So you essentially said that if you're in the know, then you potentially know what it could be. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because I'm not in the know.
Well, the thing is, like you are in the know, but uh, it's one of those things where for that substance to be in your body, it suggests that something else was in your body. Now, it doesn't like there's a long list of what that something else could be,
Oh,
but it suggests it. It's not always true, but it's a suggestion. Why have you got that in your body? Blah 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 blah. I haven't actually seen the statement from Connor, so I'm not sure if he's given an excuse as to where it may have come from, or if he's maybe saying that he's not sure, he was unaware that that was in his body, and he's not sure why
that's
it's in his body.
one. Yeah,
But
that's kind of
yeah,
what he's saying.
the thing is, yeah, Vardar, like they are the best when it's all said and done. Yeah? They if there's anything in your system, and obviously they are always playing catch up with whatever is the new list of prohibited substances in the body, and they're always playing catch up, but they do eventually catch up. Um, so look, if it's there and VAR catch it, you have to take it. You have to take it seriously. Of course, you have to take it seriously. Um, if it is something that is, I don't know, like, look, I'm naturally a bit of a cynic. So as soon as I see possible foul play, I'm the type of person that will assume it is foul play.
Mm.
Whereas there are plenty of people out there that wait for all evidence to be on the table in order to give like a balanced opinion. I just won't give a real opinion on it, but I always feel like there isn't smoke without fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Honestly, it's one of those things that we have to wait for evidence. But in the meantime, whilst there is no evidence and there is no like there's an ongoing investigation, group chats up and down the country are gonna be judging this situation. And I've been in these group chats. I'm seeing things go off, and I'm seeing everything right, left, and everyone's all over the place. People are defending, people are accusing. The quicker this is dealt with, the better for Conor Benn, honestly, because these are not the kind of allegations you want hanging over your career, especially when you're on such a good part of your career.
Mm.
When you look at how we dispatched of Chris Algieri, people are going to start looking at that and being like, hold on a second. People like that, they are. It's just natural, unfortunately. As soon as people see any kind of potential foul play, they will go back and look at your catalog and see, oh, okay, was it like have we seen this before? You know, and you may never get the answer, but it just opens the question. You know, like we will never really know if Margarito used hand wraps against Cotto. We won't know, but you can ask those questions now because he got caught with it in Mosley. So it's one of those things where this situation doesn't do any good for boxing, certainly doesn't do any good for Conor Benn. I hope for the sake of boxing that he is, and for his career, I hope that he is innocent, and I hope that there is a genuine explanation for it.
What could that explanation be?
I don't know. It's a fertility drug. Yeah, like, or it's a drug that can be used. I don't know. He's gonna have to give that to me. I don't know enough about that drug in particular to know how it can get into your system
in another way.
In other ways than just what I'm saying. So I'm sure there are other ways. I'm just not the person in the know. And unfortunately, when you look at the the fight that is happening, it's not like it's happened against been Formella, or this is in the big one against a fighter where you're giving away some weight and lots on the line. It's the type of fight where if you're looking for a motive, this is the type that has it. So unfortunately, this is the type of accusation and fight where if you throw the mud will stick. And like from what I'm seeing, it's sticking. There will be plenty of people that will still say, like, we'll wait and see what it comes out like. But sometimes these things never really become much clearer. They kind of just, as time goes on, they just fade into the distance.
Yeah.
We've seen so many people samples, flag something, and then the B sample kind of, you hear it, you kind of wait for it, and then you stop waiting for it after around 8 weeks, and all of a sudden it's just it's just in the hemisphere somewhere.
But the thing that hangs around, I guess, is, and I'm just struggling for a better way to phrase this, but kind of like that stench of bad reputation, because as a good friend of mine says, all you've got is your good name. And once there's a question mark over it, that question mark kind of sticks forever. Every time Canelo wins, people are always saying, oh, but Canelo, like, he took stuff. And it's an unfortunate reality, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, like, once it sticks to you, it sticks to you. There are different, look, there's so many bad substances. They don't all have the same effect on you. How many fighters have in the past taken something to help them strip weight? Like, that's different to somebody trying to gain size, power, endurance. It is different. It's still a prohibited drug because it's an enhancer, but it's all that they're all prohibited, and they all come with punishments and bans and whatnot. But some are actually designed to give a physical
edge,
like a proper physical edge, not just to help you get down to a certain weight that you've been struggling to get to. So it's one of those ones where it's difficult because we know how small this boxing, like the boxing world is in terms of how there's not that many people in it. And you become friends with people and you become cool with people and all of that. But when it's all said and done, you have, like, sometimes you have to try not to find too much sophisticated language just to protect yourself, which is what I'm doing right now. But like, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's just like, all right, cool. You failed the test. You failed the test. Now we need the explanation as to why you think that was failed. I don't know any amounts or anything like that. And now we've got to see, like, plenty of fighters have failed tests and gone on to achieve big things. And some have held their hands up and said, look, I did it. Like, for whatever reason, I did it. Some have always denied it, but they've had to take a ban or whatever it is. I'm super interested to see where this one ends up.
Yes, I totally agree.
I'm so interested.
I totally agree with you. A couple of, I guess, spin-off questions from me. In terms of the fact that Chris Eubank Sr. was so against this fight, so against kind of Junior coming down and having that, weight drain. Do you feel, because a lot of the things that I've heard, just on the, as you say, the group chats, are kind of like, oh, well, Senior must have known, and that's why he was so worried for his son, and kind of that sort of narrative. As you say, a lot of questions are being asked. Do you think that there could be any truth to that, where Senior might have suspected that the reason that Conor Benn is so confident going into this fight, giving up so much weight, is because he's taking prohibited substances?
I don't think so. I think, look, put it this way: until this has come out, I had never. You hear whispers in the boxing world. You hear whispers. I had not heard that whisper. So I was when I saw the notification come up on my phone. Had you? No, I hadn't. Had you?
I mean, I know nothing at this point.
I hadn't heard it. I hadn't heard any whispers, but I'm sure there may have been some. Not all whispers are true, but put it this way: I don't think if you're Chris Eubank Senior, you may not like the fight, but the reasons he said he didn't like the fight was because it had to wait for a while. Now, I would assume that Chris Eubank Senior, if he had an inkling about it, might have brought it up. I just see him as that kind of character. I know you have to be careful with how you do it because of defamation of character.
Yeah.
But I think, look, bottom line, if that was my son and I had heard through the grapevine that was happening, then it's a categorical no. Like that, this fight can't go ahead. And I'll probably, in a smart way, try and be the whistleblower. I don't think he thought that Conor was on any performance enhancing drugs. I just think he didn't like the fact that Eubank was being dragged down. Like, do you know how many times I have predicted Chelsea to win 3-1 and they don't? But one of them weeks they do, and it makes me look like a genius for it. So it's just like it might be one of those ones. I don't think Chris Eubank had an inkling. Chris Eubank Senior had an inkling that Conor Benn was on something. But if he did, fair play. If he did, fair play. Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked. I had no idea. I'd not really heard it. He had been showing new and improved power, but I've seen so many fighters show new and improved power. The thing is, as much as I am a cynic, I can't look at somebody with a heavily improved performance and be like, oh, it must be. There's got to be something there.
But having said that, now as soon as this whole thing's come out, the first thing that people have said is like, oh, well, that's why he's so explosive. Do you know what I mean?
So he's always been explosive. He's always been explosive.
He's always been explosive, but there has been obviously an improvement in that area. What I did want to ask you about is obviously, there was this whole thing was up in the air. Like, will this fight go ahead? Will it not go ahead? The British Board of Boxing didn't want to sanction the fight. Initially, what I heard on the grapevine was that Eddie Hearn was going to have it sanctioned by an international body, and then at some point he decided against that and said that's definitely not the route we're taking, etc. Obviously, there was this video circulated of Eddie being like, kind of taking the opposite stance to what he took this week, with him trying to push the fight ahead, saying that VADA's the best in the business. What's the point of volunteering yourself for this testing if at the point where you fail a drugs test, the fight should still go ahead? What do you make of that the kind of dichotomy of opinion?
I get it because Matchroom would have spent a hell of a lot of money on promoting this fight, and you get to the Wednesday, and all you've got is the presser and the waiting to go. Like, you're 2 days out, and this rears its head. Obviously, from a business interest, they want the fight to go ahead. They spent a lot of money. It's worth a lot of money. They have to give back a lot of tickets, etc., etc. They want the fight to go ahead. But the integrity of the sport, it does no good. Eddie knows that anyway because he said it in a previous situation. However, I'm pretty sure that previous situation was a fight that had nothing to do with him. So it's quite easy when the shoe's on the other foot. It's very good to take it's very easy to take, the moral high ground and be able to be in the correct frame of mind. When it's your millions, your business, your fighters on the line, it becomes a lot more difficult. And often you just naturally find yourself trying to protect your business interests. I think that's what he's done there.
And also,
but it's a strange one because it's a strange one because yes, he's failed a VADA test, but the British Board of Control don't necessarily recognise VADA testing, but
Yeah,
they have this time.
yeah, they have this time. Yeah,
They have this time.
it is interesting.
It's a big move from the board, considering I'm not sure how legally this is going to turn out, because the board obviously recognised UCAD and not VADA. All of those tests were passed. So I'm interested to see how this works out from a legal standpoint when it comes to Matchroom and Wasserman versus the British Board of Control. So I'm interested to see this whole situation. And luckily, Boxer have absolutely nothing to do with it. So like we can just watch. We have nothing to do with it.
I know, it must be such a relief, really, to not be part of that. Okay, so final question from me. Obviously, if investigations are carried out and it turns out that, Conor Benn, he knowingly took these performance enhancing substances and whatever, where does he go from here? What does his career look like? How does that play out?
I'm not sure, because I don't think you can ever prove that. Do you know what kind of bad, dodgy interview Conor Benn would have to give for them to be able to prove that he knows?
At some point, he just said, "Okay, guys,
I did it.
I did it."
No one's done that. No one does that. As in, obviously, there is like beyond reasonable doubt. We're talking like Jarrell Miller kind of stuff.
Yes.
But to this day, Canelo says it was due to Mexican meat, and to this day, there are plenty of fighters that say, I have no idea how it got in my body. Maybe somebody put it in my drink. Maybe somebody gave me paracetamol that wasn't a paracetamol. So the problem is you'll never get, I don't think you'll ever get that level of clarity from it. It will always be like a grey cloud that hangs over your head. And he'll just have to hope that time heals over this one, because I'm not sure how they're going to be able to show that he was knowingly had it in his body. He's got it in his body. It's in his body. That's it. That's as far as we can get. And maybe he can blame it on, just whatever circumstance, where he could just be like, it was negligence. I didn't realize this, or I didn't realize that, or whatever it is. And generally, that seems to be the route that most fighters go.
Yeah.
But I personally don't think it affects him that bad. Have the grey cloud over his head for a bit, and people question it. But then he has a big decision to make, because if he hasn't knowingly taken anything, and this is just something that is come to light, and he was unaware, then he'll carry on with his career, and he'll still be as explosive, and he'll still be the exact same Conor Benn that we've seen for the last couple of years. If he did knowingly take it, then he has a big decision to make. So I'm saying, as to like, what's his next move now? Because like, I can only imagine the the mental side of it as well. Like, knowing when you know you're stronger than you really are. I feel like you would behave. I'd behave stronger than I really was. Like, if I just turned into an action figure, you would notice it out there on the road. Like, you will see it. You'll see it in my eyes. So yeah, I just want to see it. I just want to see a conclusion, and it not kind of be forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because I actually want to see this fight. And as bad as it is, I think this little episode of it could make it even bigger.
I think a lot of people would agree with you that they just really want to see this fight, and I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed this week. I don't know too much about it, like this whole B sample thing, etc. I read somewhere that people, I'm not sure who, but there has been instances in the past where someone has tested positive for having something in their system, and then the B samples come back, and that's no longer on the results. Is there anything else you can tell us about that?
No, listen, I have never taken any performance enhancing drugs.
As though you have.
Yeah, I haven't. I have no idea. I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously there's been situations where the B sample hasn't flagged something up, but I tell you that one of the bigger issues here is transparency. The problem is that obviously it's the world of boxing, and the public don't get everything when the people that need to know everything have everything. So I've heard that, you know, this was actually known about a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
And like it obviously wasn't given to the public, but I've heard that this was something that people knew of a couple of weeks ago. This is what I've heard. The problem is with these situations, you hear everything. You hear absolutely everything. And then you almost end up with too much information. You have to like kind of work out what is reliable and what's not.
Yes.
It's in the A sample. For it to not be in the B sample would absolutely baffle me, and I would have to really have a look. I'd just have to just wait and see what they say. After a certain point, no one can actually know anything. We just have to believe what we're told.
Yes, so true.
That's it, unfortunately. So if they say the B sample has nothing in it, then unfortunately that's all the information we have, and we have to assume now that the B sample has nothing in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to see the fight. Do you know what's killed me is the fact that I know that if there was performance enhancers in that fight would have been far more entertaining than in my head I thought it was going to be. I had a feeling it was a fight that was going to be pretty one-way traffic just because of the size difference.
Yes.
But boy, oh boy, would performance enhancers change that.
Valid point. Very, very good observation, Dan. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's a waiting game at this point. In the meantime, while we wait to find out more on that, obviously we have the boxer show next week, the big show that everyone's been waiting for that should have happened. When was it? 10th of September it was meant to happen.
10th of September, yeah.
Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for that?
I'm very excited for that. Super excited. Even more now because we've had to do 2 fight weeks. So next week we do it kind of all over again. We've got to do the presser, we've got to do the weigh-in, and hopefully we get to fight night. But I think it's a big fight. I think it's the one now that people have to look forward to. People are obviously looking forward to it. It's very nearly a sellout. So I'd like to assume that by the time we get round to October 15th, that is sold out. Especially now that this big fight, the Ben Eubank fight, no one actually gets to go to. O2 must be furious. Yeah. They've lost so much money in the last month. Yeah. And yeah, you know, like it's a huge fight. It's like one of those. It's another legacy fight when you think about it. It is. Ben Eubank is a legacy fight, but this is a fight that is 10 years in the making. It has a story behind it. It's got the amateur days. The only person to ever beat Clarissa Shields in a boxing ring. A clash of styles. They don't love each other. It's been an entertaining like build up to the fight. So I'm interested in that fight. I'm very excited to see it. And then when you look at like the fights underneath it as well, when you look at Baumgartner and Maya, that's a huge fight again. Like it's history making. I'm not sure if and when we see this again, a women's only card, especially one that is this big.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because in order to do it, you need enough years in the making for it. And I'm not sure if like where I can't see where the next one is yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a huge night. I'm very excited for it.
Good. We are as well. And I look forward to catching up with you during fight week next week. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime.